Hello everyone, my name is Krisha, welcome to my hobby blog. Today is a very special day. As of Friday, November 12th, I believe, I hit 50 subscribers on this channel. Thank you all so much for allowing me to hit that milestone. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be at 50. I am grateful that you guys continue to watch what I do, the movie reviews and the book reviews I used to do that I haven't really had the motivation to do anymore, but just sticking with me is something I very much appreciate, and I thank you all for staying with me on this journey. I haven't hit a year yet, so I think I had a goal of like 25 subscribers in a year. I would have to rewatch an earlier video. I think it was my first video, was talking just what my channel was going to be about. And that was on March 3rd or March 4th is when I did that. But yeah, I didn't think I would be at 50 within a year. That was not even an expectation. I didn't think people would watch my stuff at all. And sure, my view counts go up and down a lot, and recently everybody's watching my adult movie reviews that I do, that I kind of just did because people asked me my thoughts on a particular film. And then the other one I actually really liked, the Malabemba movie, one that kind of shocked me by how good it was compared to what I was expecting. But I'm always excited to check my stats and see comments that people leave, see how like what people are watching, because it gives me like a last 48 hours statistics on like what people have been watching. And it's always fun to see my top 3 viewed videos for that time, because sometimes it's an old Zatoichi review that I've done with Leon, or looking at a really random like review that I guess everybody was watching like randomly. Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but I've seen some weird search terms when it comes to my analytics, because it tells you what people search for and when they click your video, and some of them are very shocking. I've talked about them on my Instagram, or at least screenshotted it and was kind of like, look at what you guys are looking up when finding my channel. This is weird. But yeah, I'm just really happy to still be doing this. I've mentioned before that I've done other YouTube channels in the past throughout my life since high school, and none of them I stayed with for more than a couple weeks. And here I am at 8 months and 2 weeks or so, and I don't want to stop yet. I am still really enjoying this. You can kind of see what I've been watching over my shoulder. These are usually my shelf that I'm displaying, what I'm getting through, what I am exploring and rewatching or revisiting or discovering. And so I think I've never mentioned that. If you've noticed me changing what's behind me, usually right here where Sailor is right now, that's where that's probably the movie spot on my shelf that I am currently watching, that I may or may not do a review for. So it depends. But I think we're gonna go on to the Q&A section, because I was sent in various questions throughout my anticipation to hitting 50 subscribers, because for like 2 months there I was at 47. And so a few months ago I posted, hey, send in questions, and you all, or not everyone, but a lot of people send in questions, and all of them are great, and I'm excited to get into this. So the first question that I have here is from Faith. Hello, Faith. Always happy to hear from you. She asked, what is your favorite Blu-ray release? This is her first of 2 questions. So what is my favorite Blu-ray release? I had it. Okay, here's my stack. Okay, so I'm not doing my. Well, I guess I'll rank these from my my number 3, my number 2, and then my favorite one. First and foremost, I've discussed this before. I will do a review, but I'm gonna do a special review, something new, something I think would be fun to do. But I gotta move out first and do all that before doing anything super special. But this is a Criterion Collection release. I've mentioned it many times, saying it's one of my favorite movies ever, but this particular release was just amazing. And it's one I rewatch regularly, and that is Tampopo. It is all about a noodle shop owner who is trying to make it big and become the best noodle shop owner in Tokyo, I believe. I think it's Tokyo. It's somewhere in Japan. But I absolutely love this release. The presentation is really good. I love the design of the covers. And then inside, you have a very famous scene, a kissing scene where these two lovers are passing an egg yolk in their mouth as they kiss. It comes with a pretty large poster that I do plan on hanging. Let me see if I can get it out. Okay. Here we go. You can see it's our main character, Tampopo, cooking a bowl of rice while all of our favorite characters are there. So I adore this release. It has an amazing documentary on this with the director around the time when he made this, where he chronicles the first time he started writing the script all the way to release in theaters. And he talks about the whole process, and it's just him. It's him narrating and showing behind the scenes footage, movie scenes, deleted scenes that didn't make the cut, all that. It's one of my favorite releases ever, but this next one I love even more, although it's very frustrating to me. It's a Vinegar Syndrome release. It's one I was not expecting at all. This was announced during the halfway to Black Friday sale, and oh my god, this was a dream come true for me. This is the Champagne and Bullets release. That's the original name, and I've reviewed this whole package already. But the only downside that I don't like about the set is this thing where you drag it out, because look, I had to put tape on it because it was scratching right here and tearing it. And you can see on the back, I haven't taped it yet, but you can see it's tearing. It's too tight, this little slipcase, and it's the one thing I absolutely hate about this release. But everything else, I really, really love. It has all 3 cuts of the movie. This is a movie I've loved for years, and it was the Get Even cut of the movie that is just so famous because it's so bad and yet so charming and amazing. And our main star, John DeHart, is a madman. He is insane. Rutger Hauer is in this movie, and he's probably blackout drunk the entire time, like the actor. And it comes with an audio commentary track with John DeHart, like today, like living and breathing. And he is just as crazy as his character. It comes with, I believe, an audio interview also with him that was newly filmed. But this was a movie that I had no hopes of ever having a physical release of. The cut that I had, the transfer that I had, was a Google Drive file that somebody sent me, and I was hoping that it's not a virus. And I opened it, and there's Get Even. And for years, it was out of print on some shitty old DVD that he himself made. And it was around the halfway to Black Friday sale. They were like, hey, we're releasing this movie called Champagne and Bullets. And I saw the cover, and I was like, okay, it's just some action movie. And I scrolled down. And a few hours later, someone was like, dude, did you see they're releasing Get Event on Vinegar Syndrome? And my eyes popped out of my head. Because, oh my gosh, this was a dream release for me. This and Killer Condom are like the two upgrades from DVD to Blu-ray that I've always wanted. There's more, and I'll actually be doing a video at some point chronicling all the DVDs I want upgraded. But this movie, I had no hopes. No hopes that this was going to come out. And so when it did, I just ran up to the Vinegar Syndrome headquarters and just handed them my wallet and said, you own me now. I would do anything you want me to do. But that's not real. I'm over-exaggerating, but this was just such a surprise release for me. And it's really well done. Has 3 cuts of the movie. 2 of them have been lost to time, while Get Event has a shitty DVD. So it was really hard to watch. Legally. But we're gonna go on to my favorite release now of all time. And this is not a shock to anybody who knows me, but it is the first Blu-ray box set of the Lord of the Rings extended editions. It comes with both the theatricals and extendeds, and comes with like 40 hours of footage of special features. It comes with an awesome pop-out, where it pops out and you get the map of Middle-earth. You get the 3 films separated, and each film comes with 5 discs of content. The 2 discs are, of course, the first half of the movie and the second half, because each movie's 4.5 hours, roughly. And yeah, it's just so many special features. It is absolutely amazing. There are still special features that I myself haven't seen yet, because there's just so many. And I watch these movies every year, as I've said. So it's definitely the best Blu-ray release that I own. I don't know what else to say. It's just phenomenal. But we're going to go on to the next question. And this was also asked by Faith. So thank you for sending these questions in. Fastest book you've read? Well, this was very easy for me, because I chose 2 books that I read in 2 or 3 days. I've read books before in like a single day, but those were like 300-page books. These 2 books are over 1,000, roughly. And I read them in just like a couple days. The first one is book 10 of The Wheel of Time, Crossroads of Twilight. This is a very controversial book. I don't even want to tackle that, but nobody likes this, except for me. I loved this book. And it just really upsets me every time I am just like on Discord, usually, or on Reddit, and everyone like jumps on me and is like, yeah, Crossroads of Twilight sucks, and like all this stuff, and just like I'm sick of hearing it. I'm so sick of everyone talking shit about this book. They're like, oh, it's all progress, no payoff. But in my head, I'm like, The Wheel of Time is done. It was finished. There are 15 books if you include the prequel. I'm fine with a book like this, where we slow down and take a breath and hang out with these characters. Because to me, the author is dead. The original author. We're not getting any more work by him. And so for me, I'm like, yes, the more the better in my eyes. And when it comes to The Wheel of Time is absolutely incredible. I loved this book. I read the last 400 pages in a day. I don't read more than 100 pages usually in a day, let alone 400. But, wow. I love this book. Flew through it in a day, roughly. But, oh my gosh, I loved it. But the other book that I've read really quickly is another Wheel of Time book. This one is actually like 1,000 pages. The other one's like 850. This one is over 1,000. I think it's 1,080 pages. But this is A Memory of Light, the final book of the Wheel of Time. If you've read this book, you know why this is the fastest book. because around page 400 or so, you get, around page 676, and all the way until the end, you have a really major event. And there's a chapter that is 230 pages long, roughly, longer than the first Harry Potter book. And I read that entire chapter in like a few hours because it was just so action-packed and amazing, and lots of sad moments watching my favorite characters just die. And it was really upsetting to read that chapter. And if you've read it, you know, or if you've heard about, you know, that 230 page chapter, like, you know. And then after that, we still have 200 pages left of the book. And so I ended up just finishing the book that day after reading that gauntlet of that one chapter, chapter 37. But that was the fastest that I've read. I read half of the book in that day. It was about 400 pages, 500. But it's no surprise that The Wheel of Time, some of the fastest books I've read. I read Eye of the World in a week or so, and that was like my first read ever, aside from the time in high school that I regrettably thought it was stupid after reading like 5 chapters. But I love Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time TV show comes out this week. That's going to be really exciting. I don't know if I'll do videos on it, but I'll definitely be in the community talking about it. I'm one of the moderators for Splicky, which is a spoiler-free wiki for The Wheel of Time and other series like Shadow and Bone and Stormlight Archive, which I don't know how much progress is done. I'm mostly focused on Wheel of Time side, but we are gonna be doing special stuff for the show on that, so that's where I will probably put the most energy in. But enough of that. Let's go back to the Q&A. The next question, this is one that I forgot to choose one because I just could not decide, but I will give my top 3. I gotta go grab them. Hopefully you can't see me grabbing these books. Oh, don't look. And then, okay. So I'm going to choose 3 that I just grabbed right off my shelf. 2 of them, one of them I've done a review on, so you can go watch that for more details, but in no particular order, Jurassic Park is, of course, one of my favorite books ever. I read this for the first time this year when I started the channel, and I was just going through books in a much faster pace than I was. Wheel of Time really just killed my motivation to read. I haven't finished a book in like a month. But this was a time when I was reading about the midpoint of the Wheel of Time. I needed great books that were short, that was snappy, fast-paced, and I loved this book. I read the entire thing in a day. All 300-something pages. 400 pages, this book is. And so I read it all in a day and loved it. Talked about it on the channel, so you can go watch that review. The production value is probably much less than this because I didn't have this wonderful webcam and microphone in those early days. But I just loved this book. It is so snappy. I love the movie too, but I thought this was much better, and the movie is one of my favorites. But the next book is a Brandon Sanderson book, of course. I had a rough time choosing which one's my favorite, but I think it's this one, because this is what led me to dive deep into what is called the Cosmere back in 2016 when I read this. But this is the final book of Mistborn, the first series of Era 1, the Hero of Ages. If you've read it, you know why. It's because from the very first page, it is 9 out of 10, just breakneck speed. Brandon Sanderson is the master of the Avalanche, except this entire book is an avalanche of where it just keeps going up and up and up. And I was actually a guest on the World Hoppers podcast, which I haven't talked about in a while, but Ilana just, not recently, but she, after the episode that I was in where we discussed book 2, she finally got around to reading it, and she was kind of asking for expectations, just kind of like, okay, like, I don't know if I can handle the end, because she's read, like, Stormlight Archive and Warbreaker and other series by Brandon Sanderson, and knows that, you know, there's this thing called the Sanderlanche. And I told her many times, I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, the first 2 Mistborn books, you know, they have the avalanche in the last, like, 100 pages. It's crazy, the entire book. And this isn't the fastest I've actually read a book. This is early Brandon Sanderson, where his writing, at times, is questionable in my eyes. There are characters that you just don't like, that aren't written well. There are weird decisions that Brandon Sanderson makes and throughout the series, but I remember the first time I read the series. I read it over Thanksgiving break in my second year of college. And oh my god. I read the first book pretty slow. It took me like 2 or 3 days to get into it and finish it. But this book and book 2, I finished so quickly. And it was just absolutely amazing. I love this book. The final 100 pages of this is an avalanche on top of an avalanche. And oh my god. And it's so hard to think about the Cosmere now, because we are approaching the end of Era 2, which is 300 years after this, with a whole new cast of characters, and Brandon wants 4 eras. And his outline for the Cosmere, in terms of his scheduling, he's going to be writing for the next 30 years. And that stresses me out a lot, because I'm in my mid-20s. I don't want to be mid-50s when I finish the series. But that's all I'm going to say about that book. I love it. But my final favorite book, and as I said, no particular order, is of course George R. R. Martin's A Storm of Swords, Book 3 of A Song of Ice and Fire. I read this series so many times in high school. This is what got me into fantasy. And I remember in 2016 I was on whatever reread I was, reading the books, and he released his New Year's blog, his long night essay, as the fandom calls it, where he wrote a really long update for his blog, just kind of talking about the year, what he felt, any news on Game of Thrones, the show back when it was kind of good. No, that was after season 5 that he made this announcement, because season 6 was the first season that was going to contain material after the books that were released. And the blog ended up getting accidentally deleted and wasn't saved. So we sat there all night long until like 5 a.m. waiting for him to rewrite everything, hoping for news that book 6 would come out. That was in 2016. That was 5 years ago. We still haven't had word at this point. I don't care about the wait, because there's so many other books, and now that I'm a lot more into film collecting and movie analysis, I'm fine waiting. He'll be done when he is, and I'm not waiting around just rereading the series as some people do, where, you know, the wait is going to be awful if you're waiting just for this one book. But to actually talk about this book in specific, this is what gave us the best seasons of Game of Thrones, seasons 3 and 4. That is all this book. And this is another Hero of Ages, which I don't even know if I said the name of this book, but that's Hero of Ages, book 3, the final book of that trilogy. But this book in specific is just like that, where it is 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, the entire book. And the epilogue is absolutely insane, and it just gives me more ammo against the really shitty showrunners that were like, oh no, we don't like that, we're not going to do that themes are for 8th grade book reports, and I hate them. But the epilogue is just so cliffhanger and a total WTF moment that I'm still waiting for the resolution of, because the character that it involves has not really had an appearance in the next 2 books after this. So I really love this book. Tyrion's storyline is amazing. Jon Snow's, Sansa, kind of. Arya, it's probably the last time she was ever interesting, in my opinion, and her story. But wow, I loved these 3 books here: Jurassic Park, Hero of Ages, and Storm of Swords. I wanted to choose 3 that I haven't really talked about. Jurassic Park I've talked about, but it's still one of my favorites. But let's go on to the next question, which is from Chase. Hello, Chase. Thank you for sending in this question. I really liked thinking about this question, but it is, what are 3 books that you would bring to a tropical island? Now, there are 2 factors that I was weighing. One is bang for my buck. Just, what very long books do I own that I would bring with me that could be rereadable over and over and over again? And the other one was length. I have 2 very long books and 1 quite short book, but one I think is the perfect tropical island book. So we're going to go it's on the floor because I just had nowhere to put it. They're very big books. But the first one, of course, is one I've reviewed on the channel before, but it is T.J. Klune's The House in the Carillion Sea. This book is just absolutely wonderful. I did a whole review on it, but this book is the perfect beach book. You can just see by the cover that this is a really good book to read in isolation, by the beach on vacation. So if you want to watch the review, please go watch it. This video is already reaching 30 minutes, so I want to finish soon. But yeah, this book is just incredible, about a investigator, child case worker who investigates magical children and the orphanages, and inspects the environment to see if they're being raised right and all this. And he goes to a top secret orphanage ran by a very mysterious guy, and it is absolutely wonderful, so heartwarming. Very few times I have ever actually cried during a book. I've been very melancholy and depressed and not tearful, but very gut-wrenched, And this was the first book where physical tears went down my eyes at the end. And I loved it. So, so good. Please go watch my review for more details. The next book is kind of a cheat. It's definitely me cheating. It's 3 books technically, although the author intended it as 1. And what could it be aside from the amazing, very beefy, very dense The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. I have an edition that has illustrations on it. It has the 300-page appendices, I guess, because there's multiples, that talk about all the histories of Middle-earth. And I've read these books before, but I haven't read this volume yet. I was actually hoping to do a book club type of thing with my Discord channel, which, if you guys want to go on that, just leave a comment and I'll send you a link. But I just love The Lord of the Rings. I talked about how the Bluray box set is my favorite release ever, so it goes without saying that I love the books. There's nothing else to be said about The Lord of the Rings that hasn't already been said. So I'm just going to move on to my last one, which, for those who know me, is not a surprise of what I chose. This one is a Brandon Sanderson book. of course. But it is probably his beefiest one, aside from the bloated book 4 of Stormlight, which is still amazing. It's 8 out of 10. I love it, but a little bloated. He also got a new editor for that book. But this is book 3 of the Stormlight Archives. This is Oathbringer. This is when I really began to love the series. I love book 2, don't get me wrong, but I love character arcs. I love to see change in characters and their characteristics and all that. And watching Dalinar's behind the scenes flashback chapters was just... I remember the first time I read this and I was like, oh, that's why everyone tiptoes around Dalinar. Okay. I just thought he was some badass. No. But yeah, and the resolution, the 100-page battle that happens at the end. Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't know what else to say. I think one of these days, when I have a bit more people in my Discord server, I think I'm going to do a Cosmere reread, where I start from the beginning and I do it with other people, and we have book club meets, like once a week or, once a month, however long it takes us to read. But yeah, book 3 of Stormlight is just so insane. And I think that's why I'm a little critical of book 4, the one after it, Rhythm of War. This one's just huge. I love it. It's a really great book, very well written. The climax is insane. It confirmed 2 theories of mine that I had, which I was very, very happy about. But this book especially, I love the Navani storyline in book 4, but it really felt like he was copying and pasting his notes, to be frank, about his magic systems, which his magic system is very well done. I love it. But in this book, his magic system, it was pretty expansive in book 3, and it's like the sweet spot, in my opinion, for how much, I guess, exposition and science there is. And in Rhythm of War, it's all the way out, off screen, because it's so expansive. But all the chapters that involve Navani and the magic system, it's very scientific, which is fine. That's why I love his magic system so much, is that you can actually study it and kind of figure out, oh, there's going to be space travel eventually, and the Cosmere. How does Stormlight be used? Or Tower Light and all the different lights that we discover in that book. How would that contribute to space travel? And it's fun thinking about that. But when it comes to the actual text itself and the narrative, it just really felt like he copied his very large sheet of notes and pasted it in and just added in Navani thought or Rabonial thought, and that was my main complaint about the book. But I'm going to stop talking about book 4 because we're here for the Q&A. But that was just kind of a little thing I wanted to state, because I don't know when I'm going to review these books. So the next one is did I say who my favorite... Oh, that was my final one of what's it called? My final tropical book. I don't know if I stated this, but the person who asked what my favorite books are was the Queen of Reading. Thank you so much for sending in that question. I think I got it mixed up with another question, but she is wonderful. I love her Instagram page. She's always interacting with my channel. It's really great to have you here, Queen of Reading. Thank you. I have 3 questions left. So the first one is... I have 2 questions here by my good friend Tomi. Thank you so much for sending in these 2 wonderful questions. The first one is, what kind of characters do you like most? In terms of the personalities, in terms of physicalities, etc., rather in movies, books, other formats? Wow, what a absolutely wonderful question. It's one I probably should have thought about longer before filming, but I think for me, I really like a character who has a lot of flaws and who is very just interesting, because, and this goes back to book 10 of The Wheel of Time with Crossroads of Twilight, which everybody hates. To me, the reason why I love that book was to read about these characters. And yes, some of them are very incompetent and make really dumb decisions, but that's interesting to me. I like people who have flaws. I mean, Dalinar, again, one of my favorite books of all time. And a reason why it is one of my tropical island books, as Chase asked me, is that Dalinar is so flawed. He is a terrible person in terms of his past, and getting his background in book 3 and not book 1 was just the perfect decision, in my opinion, by Brandon Sanderson, because for 2 books you are wondering, what did he do? Why is everyone tiptoeing around him? Who is he? And we get like an in-world explanation to why Dalinar doesn't think about what he did in the past, because he doesn't remember. He was given a boon by a specific entity that allowed him to forget his past, and so that he could grow to be a better person. And that I just love that character arc. And Dalinar is one of the most fascinating characters ever. But in terms of movies, I'm about the same way. I mean, Saruman, probably one of the most interesting characters. Wormtongue. I mean, all these antagonists I usually love because I love exploring who they are and why they are the way they are. And oh my gosh, like, I'm trying to think of a really amazing Brandon Sanderson antagonist who I really like. I can't think of any right now. It's getting to be pretty late and this video is going long, but those are the type of characters I like. I like flawed characters. I like characters who have interesting backstories that explain why they are the way they are today in the present, whether the book is happening. Yeah, well, I really like this question. I could do a whole video on that one question. But the next question that Tommy, my good friend, asked me is, what do you look for in a book or movie to be pleased or satisfied? So, what makes a movie or book satisfying to me is the change in characters and watching character arcs. Because to me, I just finished this movie tonight called The Human Condition, which is a 9.5-hour movie about this one guy who slowly traverses World War II. And we watch him from before he's even involved in the conflict to the end. And this movie, I think, is perfect to describe a satisfying movie. His character arc is so fascinating. The characters he is around and the dialogue and the interactions that he has is just so masterful. I think this is one of the best movies of all time, and I just finished it tonight. And I have a review coming out this Wednesday, if you're watching this when it comes out tomorrow on Monday. So, my jaw is getting stiff. This movie is great. Reason why I love movies, because there's no other way to be satisfying than having a great character arc. That is what I look for in books and movies. Again, with Dalinar, Lord of the Rings, oh my gosh. Comparing where Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin are in the beginning of the Fellowship, and comparing them to where they are at the end of Return of the King, perfect. And that moment in the movies especially, they don't have it in the books because a totally different ending happens in terms of the storylines. But I love that scene at the end of Lord of the Rings where all four of our characters are sitting at the Green Dragon, I believe, is the inn that that is in the Shire. It's when they're all sitting there drinking together and they're not talking. What words could they say to each other? Like, everybody around them in the Shire have no idea what they did. They are so isolated from the rest of the world. And watching them sitting there and drinking together and giving a toast, and that ending with one of my favorite moments ever, where in the first movie, Samwise is having a hard time asking out Rosie, who is one of the bar maids at the Green Dragon. And he sits down, and Frodo kind of looks at him, looks at her, and Sam is just like, drinks a little bit of his malt, and he just gets up and just kisses her, I guess, because everyone kind of giggles and smiles, and it's like, after everything that they have done, Samwise, him going up to Rosie and I guess kissing her and just showing how much he loves her, it's like, I love the change in the characters from the beginning of The Lord of the Rings to the end. And that is like such a satisfying moment. It's not one that you end a movie with, but it's really great. Okay, wow, that was a much more enthusiastic answer than I was planning on doing it, but thank you so much, Tommy. Wonderful question, as always. The final question I have is from a good friend, Ragman. Hello, thank you for your great interactions that you have on my channel. You're always leaving wonderful comments, always messaging me about movies I've seen. You're a really great person to have in the community and as an audience member. Very interactive. He asks, what was the first movie you saw in theaters? And he says, mine was Batman Returns from 1992. I haven't seen that movie. I probably should, and this will motivate me to watch it. But I am trying to remember my first movie in theater. I'm looking up the year for this one movie because it was really early 2000s or late 2000s. So I apologize. Yes, so that has to be the first movie I saw. The first movie I saw, I think, in theaters was Toy Story 2. And the reason why I had to look up the year that it came out was because the next movie I saw in theaters that I vividly remember was The Two Towers, The Lord of the Rings, and that was in 2001, I believe, or 2002. But Toy Story 2 came out in 1999. I guess it's the only movie that I saw in the 90s that I remember, because I was born in 1996. And so I was 3 years old, I guess, when I saw Toy Story 2, and I remember it vividly. There's that amazing scene. It's probably my favorite. It's actually my least favorite Toy Story movie. My least favorite Toy Story movie, but there's a specific moment that I love just because it's so satisfying to watch, is when the Chicken Man suit guy is cleaning Woody and restoring him. And he opens his toolbox very slowly, and he's taking out the brushes, repainting Woody's boots, painting over the initials of Andy, who Woody belongs to, and watching him slowly restore him. Also, you can't forget about Jessie, the wonderful cowgirl, the prospector, who I thought was always very goofy, and I loved him. it's mostly everything with the Darth Vader clone guy. I can't remember his name. I think that's when the movie falls off for me, but everything else is just really incredible. I love the small setting of where Woody is kept in a box, along with the Wild Wild West stuff. And I really like the scene where they go and get a new Buzz Lightyear at the store. That was really just wonderful to watch as a kid. And I really remember watching that in theaters. It was so vivid for me. But, yeah, I think that's all. That's all the questions I got. So many great ones. Many directions that I went that I wasn't expecting. But, thank you all so much. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for me. Please, share around this channel if you can. Please leave a comment of what your responses to these questions will be or would be, and let's get another 50 in the same amount of time. Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys have a good week.